A dining room full of powerful people holds its breath. Silverware rests on china. Candles burn steady. The air carries roast meat and sweet wine. Silas Ruttled rises as if he is about to offer a toast. He does not toast. He steps behind his daughter's chair and lays one hand on the backrest. Light, possessive, calm. Catherine sits rigid. Her face is pale in the warm light. Her fingers twist a napkin until it tightens like a rope. Across the table, a judge's wife lowers her eyes to her plate and does not look up again. Silas speaks evenly. He says Catherine has been unwell for years. He says doctors failed. He says relief finally arrived from an unexpected place. He gestures toward a man standing quietly near the wall. An enslaved man, Ezekiel Cross. Silas says Ezekiel will not simply assist. He will assume full responsibility for Catherine's welfare, complete authority, treatment, daily activities, living arrangements, effective immediately. The room forgets how to breathe. This is not care. This is control, declared in front of witnesses. In a society that claims white women must be protected above all else, Silas Ruttled places his own daughter beneath the authority of the man he owns. Catherine's mouth stays closed. Her posture stays composed. Only her hands betray her, knuckles whitening beneath the table. Around her, the county's elite trade quick glances. Shock, confusion, disgust. No one stands. No one refuses the meal. No one challenges him. They sit there as an unthinkable thing becomes official. They do not yet know what this decision is meant to hide. They do not yet know what it will cost them. They do not yet know how close the fire already is. But Catherine knows. She sits stiffly because she knows what waits beneath the floorboards. A secret with weight. A secret with names. A secret built to survive silence. Spring in Colleton County arrives with oppressive heat. The Combs River moves slow through the low country. Dark water reflecting Spanish moss hanging from live oaks like draped cloth. Rice fields stretch outward in flooded rows. Enslaved people move through knee-deep water from dawn until dusk. Steady, exhausted, unseen. This is how wealth lives here. It does not explain itself. It simply takes. Cypress Grove Plantation sits on 800 acres of moderately productive land. Not small, not legendary. A plantation that says something about its owner. Silas Ruttled is wealthy by most standards, but not counted among the great houses. He owns 58 enslaved people. Enough to be secure, not enough to be untouchable. The families above him own hundreds. They summer in Charleston. They send sons north. Their names carry weight that can open doors or close mouths. Silas wants their protection. He wants their approval. He wants their silence. He married Elizabeth Yancey in 1812. The union brought moderate land and a respected name. Elizabeth kept meticulous records and thought in margins. She died giving birth the next year. The child was named Catherine. Silas raised her alone while he built what he could: land, reputation, and the appearance of stability. He became known as shrewd, honorable enough, a man who pressed hard in business but kept his word. Tall, thin, gray too early, a severe face that matched a cold temperament. Catherine grew up isolated, educated by tutors, never fully belonging anywhere. By now she weighs nearly 260 pounds, swollen from years of medications prescribed by doctors who called her condition hysteria and female nervous disorders. She suffers violent fits, screaming, throwing objects. The previous year, she attacked her father with a letter opener and left a scar across his left hand. Colleton County whispers with false sympathy. Poor Silas Ruttled, burdened with a mad daughter. What a shame. None of them know what Catherine witnessed at 12. None of them understand that her breakdown is not fiction. It is the natural outcome of living with men who treat secrets like property. But this wasn't medicine. It was a seal. A private courier delivers a letter on April 7th. Silas opens it in his study expecting business correspondence. Instead, he finds expensive paper sealed with red wax, a symbol stamped into it, a scythe crossed with wheat stalks. Silas recognizes it immediately. The Brethren of the Harvest. 13 men. Men who gather in darkness and believe rituals strengthen the land through blood sacrifice. Old European traditions mixed with beliefs borrowed from enslaved people. Knowledge of spirits and power twisted into something monstrous. Silas was initiated in 1822. Over 19 years he attended perhaps 40 gatherings. He participated in rituals that ranged from disturbing to monstrous. The letter tells him he is in debt, $12,000. Borrowed over years of gambling losses and failed investments. Repayment would destroy him. It would mean selling most of his land and all his enslaved people. Everything he built would collapse. But the letter offers another way. A demonstration. A proof of commitment. Silas must take his daughter Catherine and place her under the complete authority of one of his enslaved men. Not temporarily. Not as punishment. For 1 full year. The enslaved man will have total control over her person, her daily activities, her treatment. Silas must announce it publicly to the county's prominent families and frame it as an extreme medical measure. The humiliation will be complete. A white woman declared worth less than property. In exchange, the debt will be forgiven, and the Brethren will provide support to restore his position. Silas sits for hours in the dim of his study. He weighs bankruptcy against obedience. He weighs exposure against submission. He thinks about the brethren's reach, judges, lawyers, politicians. He understands what happens to men who become problems. Before dawn, by candlelight, he writes his acceptance and sends it. And once you accept their bargain, they own you forever. 3 days later, another letter arrives. A name, Ezekiel Cross, age 33. Purchased recently through an intermediary from a Virginia plantation. Skills, carpentry and herbal medicine. Temperament, quiet and obedient. The paper does not say why he is chosen. It does not say he was selected for this purpose. It does not say this placement is no accident. Ezekiel arrives on April 13th in a wagon driven by a slave trader named Henderson. The wagon pulls directly to the main house. Silas steps onto the porch and shields his eyes against the sun. In the wagon bed sits Ezekiel. The first thing Silas notices is his eyes. Most enslaved people keep their gaze down. Ezekiel looks directly at Silas, calm, assessing. It makes Silas uncomfortable. Ezekiel is tall, broad-shouldered, built by hard years. His skin is unmarked by whipping scars. His clothes are simple but clean. His hands are large and calloused, but his fingers move with careful precision. Henderson hands Silas the papers. This one was carefully selected, he says. Silas barely glances at them. He addresses Ezekiel directly. You understand why you are here? Yes, sir. Ezekiel's voice is deep, measured, with a slight Virginia accent. Silas says his daughter is unwell. Doctors failed. Ezekiel will be responsible for her care. Ezekiel says his grandmother was a healer and taught him before he was sold. The transaction ends quickly. Ezekiel is given a cabin near the main house, separate from the other slave quarters. He is told his sole duty is Catherine's care. Failure brings severe consequences. He nods. Yes, sir. Then he is left alone. He sits on the bed and pulls a cloth bundle from inside his shirt. He unwraps it carefully. A worn piece of paper with 3 names written in a child's uncertain handwriting. Sarah, Benjamin, Ruth, his wife, his son, his daughter, sold away from him 3 years earlier to a plantation in Alabama known for working enslaved people to death. Within 18 months they were gone. Sarah from untreated fever, Benjamin from an injury that turned septic, Ruth from simply giving up, 6 years old, stopping eating because she could not understand why her family had been torn apart. Silas Ruttled was the one who sold them, not because he needed the money, not because they had done anything wrong, because he was demonstrating to the brethren that he could make hard decisions without sentimentality. Ezekiel folds the paper and tucks it away. He lies back and stares at the ceiling. The room is still, but his mind is not. The next day, a house slave named Judith brings Ezekiel upstairs. Judith is middle-aged, graying, careful. She stops at Catherine's door and knocks reluctantly. Miss Catherine, your father has brought someone to help with your treatments. A crash answers from inside. Something heavy hits the wall. Then Catherine's voice, slurred, bitter. I do not want more treatments. Send him away. Judith glances at Ezekiel with sympathy. She has bad days, she says. This is one. Ezekiel opens the door and steps inside, closing it before Judith can follow. The room is large but dark. Curtains drawn, air stale, unwashed bedding, and beneath it a sweet rotting smell. Mercury, books scattered, a shattered picture against the wall, clothes everywhere. Catherine sits by a cold fireplace in a stained dressing gown. Her hair hangs loose and tangled. Her face is puffy, her eyes unfocused. Her hands tremble continuously on the chair arms. She looks at Ezekiel. Confusion, fear, anger. Who are you? She says. I said no more doctors. I am not a doctor. Ezekiel says. My name is Ezekiel. Your father asked me to help you. She laughs harshly. That is what they all say. Help, treatment, medicine. They mean poison. They mean chains. They mean silence. She stands suddenly, swaying. I know what this is. He is punishing me again. For remembering, for speaking, for refusing to forget. Ezekiel holds still. What are you supposed to forget? He asks. Her anger flickers. You do not know, she says. I know nothing, he answers. Only that your father says you are unwell. Catherine studies him. You are not from here. Virginia originally, he says. She leans forward. Do you know what happens in this house? What they do in the cellar? Ezekiel keeps his face neutral. I do not know what you mean. Everyone lies, she says. It is easier than truth. She sits heavily. Leave me alone. Ezekiel does not leave. He pulls the curtains open. Sunlight floods the room. Catherine cries out and covers her eyes. When did you last go outside? He asks. I cannot walk that far, she says. I am too weak. When did you last eat without laudanum? He says. The medicine is necessary, she answers. Doctors say so. Ezekiel turns from the window. He speaks calmly, controlled. He says her condition is designed not to help her, but to keep her controllable. He says her father has been poisoning her for years, so she will never become well enough to speak about what she saw. The room goes silent. Catherine's eyes widen, her trembling hands still. When she speaks again, her voice is clearer. He told you? Your father told me nothing, Ezekiel says, but I have eyes. I know mercury poisoning. I know long-term laudanum use.
Catherine's suspicion rises. This is a trick. Ezekiel does not argue. He tells her he can help her become clear-minded and strong enough to walk out of this room, but it will hurt. Stopping will be painful. She will feel worse before better. Her father will not approve. Then why would you do it, she says. Ezekiel meets her eyes. Because I have my own reasons for wanting Silas Ruttle to suffer, he says, and the best way to make him suffer is to give him back a daughter who is sane enough to remember everything and strong enough to speak. Catherine absorbs that. Then she nods slowly. The brethren, she says. Ezekiel tells her she does not know what that means. Catherine's smile is thin. You will learn, she says. They speak plainly. Ezekiel tells her Silas sold his family. Catherine listens with newly clear eyes. She says sorry, and admits it is only a word. Then she says something else that chills the room. She says people disappeared when she had lucid moments. House servants. Families told they ran away. She says the laudanum blurs everything, and she does not trust what she remembers about those days. But she knows what her father is capable of, and she knows what desperation can turn her into. Ezekiel hears the warning beneath her words. Not a confession meant for drama, a boundary meant for survival. They proceed carefully. Catherine sets a condition. When revenge is done, she wants to die. Ezekiel agrees. She extends her hand. He takes it. Her grip is stronger than expected. Ezekiel begins treatment. He reduces laudanum gradually. He replaces part of it with herbal tinctures, valerian root, chamomile, milk thistle. The process is brutal. Catherine spends days in bed with fever, shaking, vomiting. Ezekiel stays with her. A basin, cool cloths, quiet words that do not ask for trust, only endurance. When the worst passes, she is weak but clearer than she has been in years. The tremor decreases. Her speech steadies. Her eyes focus. And each clear day she gains makes Silas Ruttle more afraid. Every clear day Catherine gained made Silas more afraid. As she strengthens, they talk. Catherine describes the cellar, the rituals, the men who stood there, and what it did to her to be told, again and again, that her memory was false. She kept journals anyway, coded entries, dates, names, visitors at strange hours, sounds from below. Ezekiel tells her about Sarah, Benjamin and Ruth, how Silas arrived with a buyer's warrant, inspected them, agreed to purchase all three, then changed the terms. He would take the woman and children, not the husband, and he smiled. Catherine listens. Then she says she is responsible for what she does next, and she promises Ezekiel, Silas will pay. They will all pay. The formal announcement dinner arrives. 41 people gather. Judge Pelham and his wife Eleanor, Reverend Crenshaw with his daughter, Marcus Fanning and family, Benjamin Lyle from the bank. The meal is elaborate. Catherine sits at Silas's right hand, composed. Ezekiel serves quietly, invisible to most eyes, hearing everything. Silas presents Ezekiel as the source of improvement. Then he announces the decision. Complete authority, effective immediately. The room reacts. Marcus Fanning speaks. Reverend Crenshaw objects carefully. Silas does not yield. All eyes turn to Catherine. She delivers her lines perfectly. She says she trusts her father. She says Ezekiel has been kind. She says she is content. The room relaxes. The scandal becomes manageable. The secret stays sealed. Later that night, Catherine shows Ezekiel her box of coded papers. Years of records, enough to destroy men, but she says words will not be believed. They need proof. A ledger the brethren keeps, records of rituals and participation, ensuring everyone is equally guilty. She says it is hidden in the cellar, in a room beyond the main chamber. They plan to go down when Silas travels to Charleston. They speak in whispers, mapping the cellar. Ezekiel leaves late, and returns to his cabin. He looks at the paper with the three names. He blows out the candle, and listens to the house settle. The 2 weeks pass with deceptive calm. Catherine continues improving, walking farther, speaking clearer, decoding journals. She tells Ezekiel the brethren is not unique to Colleton County. A wider network exists across the South. Connected societies, different names, same structure, power protecting power. This information is real, but it is not safe to hold in the open, so they keep working inside the house where silence has always been enforced. A single sound can end them. One night, a floorboard creaks above Catherine's room, and both of them stop mid-sentence listening, until the house settles again. They speak softer after that. May 14th arrives. Silas leaves early for Charleston with his carriage and manservant. Expected back days later. Catherine and Ezekiel wait until night. By 10 the house is silent. They meet in Catherine's room. She wears simple dark clothes, hair pulled back, a look of someone preparing for a final act. They move to the kitchen pantry. A hidden panel clicks open. Stairs descend into darkness. The smell rises immediately. Damp earth, old smoke, something organic and rotten. They descend carefully. Ezekiel carries a shuttered lantern. At the bottom the cellar opens wide. Packed earth, stone walls weeping moisture, a heavy wooden table in the center, candle holders, clay jars sealed with wax, robes with crimson trim, shelves of books and papers. Catherine presses a particular stone. A hidden chamber swings open. Inside the ledger sits on a stand, massive, leather-bound, clasped. This is where the brethren keeps what it cannot lose. Ezekiel opens the ledger, names and dates going back decades, descriptions descriptions written clinically, like records, not confession. He reads. His body tightens. The entries show systematic violence, regular gatherings, victims selected for vulnerability, and brief notes of ritual meals, recorded without shame, without emotion. He does not linger. He does not describe it. He simply keeps turning pages, as if reading too long makes it more real. He finds the entry for his family. 3 lines. A family reduced to paperwork. He wants to take the ledger. Catherine stops him. If it disappears, the brethren knows immediately. They must copy first. Names, key entries, victims, proof. They work for hours. Ink, paper, hands shaking. The truth spreads across pages like poison. They weren't going down to find proof. They were going down to find the truth that could kill them. Then light flares in the outer chamber. Footsteps on the stairs. Silas Rootle stands in the doorway, calm, flanked by men. More figures fill the main cellar behind him. Silas says he is impressed. He did not think they would find the inner chamber. Catherine says he was supposed to be in Charleston. Silas says he never trusted her recovery. He returned early and watched the house, waiting to see what she would do. Catherine tells him he poisoned her for 16 years. Silas calls it necessary. She saw something she should not have. He could not allow her to destroy everything. Catherine states what she witnessed at 12. Silas calls evil simple. He accuses Ezekiel of using Catherine. Ezekiel says nothing. He counts men, exits, odds. Silas seems to read the calculation. He orders them taken upstairs. They are locked in Silas's study. Catherine produces the copied papers from inside her dress. Silas did not search her. Too confident. Voices gather outside. Arrivals. Men in the hall. The brethren assembling. Finally the door opens. Marcus Fanning stands there. He says they are ready. Back in the cellar, the chamber is transformed. Candles everywhere. Crimson cloth on the altar. 13 chairs arranged in a perfect circle. All occupied. Silas addresses them. Judge Pelham calls for permanent silence. Silas refuses to kill Catherine immediately. He offers Ezekiel an opportunity. Membership as an associate. Participation. Resources. In exchange, Silas offers revenge against Edward Gaines in Alabama. Refuse. And both Ezekiel and Catherine die. Bodies into the swamp. Papers burned. Journals destroyed. Everything continues. Catherine refuses silence. She says she will not forget again. Silas hardens. Ezekiel accepts, but demands Catherine goes free. Not back to her room. Free. Out of South Carolina. Given money. A new identity. No return. Silas agrees. Ezekiel remains under watch until initiation. Catherine is sent away at dawn in a closed carriage. No goodbye. Only a look back once. A silent signal of understanding. Ezekiel is watched for 3 weeks. 2 overseers follow him. He is given meaningless work, but he is allowed access to the main house, the study, the cellar, the places that matter. He plays obedient, quiet, no questions. But he learns routines. He built a mental map. He finds weakness. At night, alone, he thinks about initiation. Participation means complicity. Complicity means the brethren owns him forever. The night before initiation, Silas comes to Ezekiel's cabin after midnight. Silas speaks of the brethren's power and protection. He calls love weakness, sentiment weakness. He warns Ezekiel he will be tested. He must not hesitate. If he fails, Ezekiel and Catherine die. Silas says Catherine is not truly in Philadelphia. He has people watching. If Ezekiel fails, Catherine will be found and killed. Silas leaves. Ezekiel sits in darkness with the paper of 3 names. He whispers forgiveness, not for what he wants, for what he must do. The gathering begins at midnight on June 3rd. Ezekiel is brought to the cellar, hands tied. The chamber glows with candlelight. All 13 brethren members wait in robes. Silas announces an initiation meant to prove their power. A bound, gagged young enslaved woman is brought forward and placed on the altar. Silas says this is Ezekiel's test. Take the knife, make the first cut, refuse and die. The chanting begins low and rhythmic. Silas offers the knife. Ezekiel looks at the woman. Her eyes find his. He takes the knife. The brethren approves. Ezekiel steps forward, raises the blade, then turns, not toward her, toward them. The room breaks. Candles fall. Shadows jump. Ezekiel cuts the young woman's bonds and sends her running. He moves through the disorder with the precision of a man who planned for this moment and accepted the cost. Silas speaks through the chaos, steady and furious. He says Ezekiel killed himself and Catherine both. He wasn't surprised. He was waiting. Above them, Catherine never went north. She hid where Silas did not truly look, among the people he owned. For 3 weeks she recruited. She spoke to men and women who had endured decades of brutality. People who lost children. People who watched friends vanish. People who carried silence like a second skin. 23 come, armed with tools, axes, scythes, hammers. They descend when they hear the commotion and see the young woman bursting from the kitchen. They flood the cellar. The brethren hears them too late. The circle collapses. Power becomes ordinary. Flesh and bone men, not untouchable symbols. Silas makes a final attempt to control the room. He grabs Catherine and holds a knife at her throat. He commands them to stop. The cellar stills. Catherine looks at him without fear. She tells him to do it. She tells him it changes nothing. She tells him he already lost. She strikes him hard enough to break his grip and twists away. Ezekiel faces Silas. He tells him he took everything. Wife, children, life. He did it to prove something to men who valued cruelty.
Silas says one word, please. Ezekiel answers without volume. He asks if Sarah was given mercy, if Benjamin was, if Ruth was. He says no mercy, not for Silas, not ever. What follows ends the brethren of Cypress Grove completely. 13 men do not leave the cellar alive. When it is over, Catherine stands shaking, not from fear, from release. Ezekiel asks if she is hurt. She says no. He says he has minor cuts, nothing serious. He asks what they do now. Catherine answers simply, they burn it all, the cellar, the ledger, the evidence, every trace. Ezekiel says the ledger could prove what happened. Catherine says taking it to authorities means death. Surviving brethren elsewhere will come. This ends only if everyone believes Cypress Grove died in an accident. No evidence, no witnesses, no story. Ezekiel agrees. They burn it. The enslaved people who helped leave before dawn. They disappear back to plantations. They say nothing. They saw nothing. They know nothing. Silence is survival. Catherine and Ezekiel pour oil and stack wood. They place the ledger and journals on the altar. Ezekiel opens the ledger one last time. He tears out the pages about his family and folds them inside his shirt. Catherine nods. Then she holds flame to oil-soaked wood. Fire catches instantly. Heat rises. Smoke swells. They flee up the stairs and out of the house. They stand in the yard as flames climb through Cypress Grove. In the distance, a dog begins barking on another property. Then another. Then another. The sound spreads through the dark like an alarm. Other plantations will see the smoke. People will come. Questions will form. But the story is already prepared. A candle knocked over in the cellar. The master and his guests trapped below. Tragic. Unthinkable. Unquestioned. When the sun rises, the house collapses into ash and black timber. Unquestioned. Catherine says she will go north using money stolen from her father's accounts. She says she will document everything, write it down, code it, hide it, leave it to be found when it cannot destroy anyone still living. Ezekiel says he will disappear in the chaos. He speaks of helping others escape. They walk away in opposite directions. Catherine toward Charleston and eventually Philadelphia. Ezekiel west toward the frontier. They never see each other again. The official story stands. The tragic fire. 13 prominent men dead. Funerals with full honors. Eulogies praising contributions to society. Catherine reported dead as well. Silas Ruttle's mad daughter trapped in her room. No confirmed body. No one looks closely. Most of the enslaved people are sold within months as Cypress Grove is liquidated. They scatter across South Carolina and beyond. They carry what happened into silence. Years pass. The ruins are demolished. The land sold. New buildings rise. Life covers the past with the present, but whispers persist. Stories told late at night in slave quarters. A plantation where masters burned. A night when power failed. A woman and a man who made it happen. The story changes with telling. Legend takes shape, but the core remains. During the Civil War, Union troops occupy the area where Cypress Grove once stood. They find evidence of old tunnels beneath the property, bones in the nearby swamp, markings on trees suggesting ritual sites. The war moves on. No full investigation follows. Years later, during demolition work, a journal is found sealed in a wall. It details names, dates, rituals, victims. It is coded. Before it can be fully decoded, it vanishes from county records. It disappears into the same silence it was written to survive. What remains in official memory is simple. 13 men died in a fire in 1841. Catherine Ruttle disappeared shortly afterward. No confirmed body. Ezekiel Cross was reported sold to a plantation in Alabama, but no record exists. And among enslaved communities, stories continue about a network helping people escape, led by a man who faced the monster and lived. Those stories travel without proof. They travel without paper. They travel in voices that lower when footsteps pass. They travel as warnings and as promises. And somewhere beneath newer boards and newer roofs, beneath land that changed hands and names, the old silence still sits, not empty, not clean, held in place, waiting, still.